It is now.
Yeah, okay. So all we've done so far is given you the form to read over.
Yeah.
You're going to have some time in a moment to share what's been on your mind.
Yeah.
And just at some point we might do this experience together, looking at sort of dissociative, almost how much might be present to that extent that maybe we all use some dissociative techniques.
Right.
And strategies where we might zone out a bit, we might daydream a bit, it's all on a continuum.
Interesting, that'll be.
So just to get a sense, there's some questions that might be relatable, others might not, but we can just go through that, and that also informs the trauma processing work that we might do. So it feels like it would be quite helpful for me if you're okay doing that. Yeah? So do you want me to leave that towards the end?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
And we've got 90 minutes, haven't we? And that's also on that form that we're going to try and see how the 90-minute sessions go.
Yeah.
And that just might slightly reduce, obviously, the 20 sessions that we had. But like I said, it's not fixed. That is open also to see where we're at that point. And, so sound okay?
It sounds great.
All right, then. So do you want to go ahead with kind of see what you're thinking?
Okay, so the two traumatic times in my life, the first one being the death of my mother, which gave me two choices. Either I felt like I was a victim or I felt like I wasn't. And fortunately my personality at the time decided for the latter. In children's homes you meet plenty of victims. You don't often meet people that are strong and to the best of their ability take things in their stride. So I was watching a bit of an excerpt of a movie with someone a few days ago, and it was the movie Annie, and It's a Hard Knock Life, and this person said, I don't get what they're trying to do here. They're all living an actual hell in a workhouse and this and the other, and yet they're all smiling and dancing and being joyous. And I'm like, what's the choice? What are you going to do? You're either going to be a victim and you're going to sit moping for the whole duration, or you're going to make the most of your life. So that's what I decided to do. And of course it made me fiercely independent. And it also put me at odds with authority, which was ever increasingly telling me that I should be here at this time and I need to go there at that time and I need to do these things and those things and all that different sort of stuff. From the age of 4 going into this realm of like a workhouse, having to do these things all the time, having to do your chores and...
Do you mind, Aaron, if I sometimes jump in with a question? So was it quite soon after the loss of your mum? Was it age 4 you went straight into the children's home?
It was immediately.
Immediately?
Yeah.
And was that sort of any foster homes or residential or kind of more orphan-like setting? What was the kind of setup of that?
They were institutions with lots of children. Let's say 20 or 30 children.
Okay.
And they were all mostly in-house. You'd have the school within the parameters. And I don't know whether you know about these sort of things, but there was one in Birstall, and it was called the Holt. And it was a very old, like Victorian building, a huge building with grounds, and that was the first memorable place I was in, and the school was within it. All the facilities were within it. Then I went to another one whereby the school was within walking distance when I was getting a little bit older, and then I went into several others for shorter periods of time. It was just, I think I went to about 7 of these places in like about a 4 or 5 year period.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. You got to it's very important that you do really comprehend where I'm coming from on
and
this.
at this early phase, it's still really trying to grasp the sort of the story, the timeline, the experiences, and of course I'm always holding in mind sort of developmentally the age you've been through these experiences.
Yeah.
So that's why it's just getting some of that detail early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
So within these institutions, you get older kids, and there's always going to be bullies there, and then you get the orderlies or the people that work there, and they can be very authoritarian and not very caring. I never felt that I was cared for. I was just farmed, and so these days I don't even believe in the concept of love. And I can speak endlessly about that, but there's many reasons why I don't, because I've looked for what it could possibly be and I can't find it, and I can't really see it in anybody. It's just it's mentalisms, people projecting mentalisms, and so within the realm of these places, feeling fiercely independent, always sleeping in different beds, and fortunately at the time I had an elder brother, 2 years older than me, and he was my rock. He would protect me if I was being bullied, and together we would protect each other. So we had that, and that bond went on for many years.
Was he always in the same homes as you?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we always went everywhere together.
Good, okay. And is it just the two of you in your family?
No, there's two younger sisters. One 2.5 years younger than me, and one 4 years younger.
Okay.
So the youngest one wasn't even one when she went into a foster home. The one that was 2.5, she went into a foster home, and they stayed in these foster homes much longer than myself and my elder brother did. We was took out by our father when he bought a new house and he remarried. So we was collected after 5 years, where the sisters, they were brought back 7 years, 9 years later.
So age 9, moved in with Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And so from that point, I realised that I could be a victim. I could mope around and feel sorry for myself, or I could make the best of a bad job like these kids in Annie. And so I did that, and I became fiercely independent. But the great difficulty was when I went to all these schools, I was always behind. I was outside of the current curriculum, and so I never ever fitted in. I was always made fun of. I was always in the bottom class, having to have special lessons for math and for English, and then kids being cruel, they taught me with that. And so I'd often end up being picked on, and I would defend myself when I was in fights. And so very often I used to be reprimanded and have to go to see the headmaster and this and the other. So I always felt on that level that, come on, this isn't just... I'm being persecuted. Can't you see? The kids in their gangs, they come to me, I don't go to them. And they want to do this, that and the other to me, and I'm just defending myself. But as it turns out, my heart's bigger, then they come off worse. And so there was a lot of that going on. And so, very independent. Now, the father took us back to the family home, and my expulsion from every school I ever went to was a result of my not fitting in and always being behind and not being able to do the work because I'd missed too much school time, because I was always waiting to get placed in this new term and that new term, and very often I went in mid-term and it just threw a spanner in the works. So I had to be very independent, and then going back to the father's house, well, he was a self-made man, self-employed, high intellect, and I learnt a great deal from him. We were brought up in a very regimented family, like an army camp, and we all had chores and disciplines, and so he taught me his trades, which were many trades, and by the time I was 17 I went to live in Canada.
So can I just pause you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dad, when you moved into Dad's house, who was in that house when you said, we were all sort of...
Stepmother.
Anyone else?
No, she was pregnant.
Okay.
And so it's soon to be her first child. She went on to have 7.
And
so my brother, myself, and stepmother with.
Yeah. And this might come up later, but do you have a sense of, were your younger sisters then almost integrated into their foster families and it was better for them, or was there a sense whether Dad asked for them, or was it just that actually they seemed settled, or what was it?
They were settled, and the father was desirous to get them back, but obviously there was certain issues due to the age of them and how they were settled, and so I don't exactly know what went on, but I know that tentatively these sisters used to come and stay with us at weekends. And the eldest one, she never used to want to go back. She wanted to be with her brothers, but reluctantly she'd go back until all the paperwork was done, and then eventually, I don't know, maybe 2 years after, she came with us permanently. The younger sister, it took longer. She was much more firmly established in the family, only being one and not knowing the brothers and sisters. But she ultimately was desirous to come back, and she did.
Okay. So do you remember living with them much?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I lived with them up until I was 17.
Okay. And what age were you when they joined you roughly?
Very early teens, oh no, not even teens, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 12 with the first sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Age 12, 17, okay, thank you. Yeah. And you say some of like Dad's the skills that he sort of imparted on you. What was Dad's sort of area of trade and skill?
Very practical. He would do everything. He refurbished the whole house himself. He owned businesses in the motor trade. He could do electrics, carpentry, plumbing, anything. He would never employ anyone to do anything. The only time he employed people when we was extending the house was bricklayers. Everything else he did himself.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so he was very much his own man, and very insular. Never had any friends.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very few. I remember, one or two coming to the house for a couple of glasses of whiskey. But he was a very insular man.
Okay. And I won't interrupt you too much more, but just on that, what was your sort of feeling towards Dad? What was it? How did you experience
He was my rock.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Always my rock. He got us back together. He did the right thing. He didn't run away. He didn't flake away. He was a rock in his own right, and ultimately keeping that home together with 11 or 12 kids, albeit it was pretty tumultuous, and it was very on and off with the stepmother, and ultimately it ended in divorce. But in the early years, the formative years for me, it was very empowering.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay.
So I was okay with that. And then I went on to own and run my own businesses and travel the world, 45 countries all around the world, and doing all that wonderful stuff completely.
So you went to Canada at 17?
Yes.
And did university or did...
No, my best friend at the time, his father was very wealthy, and he decided to sell his business and to move to Canada, and asked me if I wanted to accompany his son for the first couple of weeks to unload the 40-foot container of furniture, and just to be there with the son because the father had so many things to do. I ended up staying for 5 months, and me and my friend, we bought a car together, we took our test together, and we went being self-employed, doing gardening and window cleaning and car washing and all those things. We're just knocking doors basically.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant.
So from that point forward, I came back pretty well a self-made man, and I entered into my father's business, motor trade. And I stayed with him for a couple of years doing that, and then I set up on my own with my elder brother.
Okay.
And so from then on, I just went travelling around the world. I just had a zest for discovery, very Indiana Jones. And I went to many countries on my own, and lived in many places, and worked and created business in Bulgaria and Africa. And so all that was going well. I was earning a lot of money, had lots of properties, and driving all the big cars, and all the money to spend on the girls. Until then, the armed robber entered my home and shot me effectively in my bed.
Yeah.
So that then was it was kind of like the cherry on the cake of an enormous amount of stress, because in Africa, exceedingly corrupt. Every single institution is corrupt. Everyone you meet will tell you lies, and they'll have big beaming smiles, but ultimately they're just waiting for the time when they're going to deceive you and take you for everything you've got. Even the girls, and probably especially the girls in lots of instances. And everybody just wants to extract money from you. And this is the police, this is the government, this is the hospital. So I had a court case going at the time with somebody that stole $35,000 from me. I'd run out of money. I couldn't continue with my building project, and there was an enormous amount of stress. And ultimately, when I was shot, I then, of course, had a massive amount of stress, because I was convinced that somebody was paid to come to kill me, because I was taking someone to court for this $35,000, an African. And so Africans only need to pay $2,000 to have a murder carried out.
Right.
And so that's what I reckoned happened, and so therefore I needed to fortify my house, buy a pump-action shotgun to protect myself from the police under licence. And I asked the chief of police when would it be lawful for me to use this gun, and I was told any time anyone comes on your property uninvited, and most certainly under the hours of darkness. You don't ask questions, you just shoot, because they are not going to. So I lived like that for 4 months. Driving around with my Jeep with a pump-action shotgun in the footwell of the car, expecting someone just to run at me and just shoot me through the window, and this, that and the other. So I was trying to sell my property at the time, and I ran out of money, and I had to come back to England. Now, back in England, I had a psychic, egoic, mental implosion. The massive stress I was under, sleeping every single night for 4 months with one eye open and one ear open, expecting someone to come onto my land and try and shoot me through the windows. I had to put a board up at the window in the bedroom so that nobody could see, always in bed, bang, bang, bang. This sort of stuff, this goes on all the time over there. And so it was very real. And I had my life's investment there, $300,000 at the time, and I wasn't about to leave. And so I had to stay there, even though, my higher self would tell me that it's only money at the end of the day. There's a high likelihood that you're going to get killed here, but the ego wouldn't allow that. It's kind of like, I'm not leaving here. Who do they think they are?
Yeah.
And so that built up, and so then I had this psychical implosion, and then I went into all different sorts of mental, spiritual realms, the dark night of the soul, the hero's journey, the deep introspection, and I went back to my sister's home originally. I slept in her box room for about a month until I found myself an apartment and registered with unemployment. And so then I had my own place, and then I just reclused in that for the next 3 years, just reading 12 hours a day every day. philosophy and psychology, because Spirit had told me that there's some things I need to know and you better do this. But prior to that, I had a spiritual experience where two angels visited me in some immaculate kind of parallel dimension, whereby I gained my consciousness whilst I was asleep, and I was pure consciousness in the bluest and bluest of tranquil and beautiful of skies. It was such a peaceful environment, and looking down below me on a pedestal made out of marble, magnolia marble, raising up about 10 miles from the earth, lay two angels in human form, and they're both looking up like this to me. So they're both lying on their fronts, and the male had wings and the female had none. And the feeling was absolute bliss and tranquility, that nothing matters, nothing matters. You are eternity, you are God, you are spirit. And so a couple of weeks later, I was guided into an old second-hand bookstore where I came upon Carl Jung's archetypes. And within that archetype book, I read about the archetypes of angels. And I had the answer then what that spiritual gift was about. The gift was about that the anima in me, which is the female version, didn't have any wings. In this vision, the female never had any wings, so therefore she couldn't take flight. The male had wings, so therefore the male could take flight. Now, I was full of testosterone. I had no estrogen. I had nothing feminine in me at all. It was all about macho survival. And so that metaphor, miraculously, and to comprehend about the nature of these things when they happen, is absolutely incredible. And it sends you on a whole different trajectory of what on earth is going on with this realm. Absolutely crystal clear. I saw that and I felt that. And then I was gifted the book 2 weeks later by the master himself, Carl Jung, and told me what that message was. You have to build your anima, right? You've got to get back into your feminine aspect. You're completely out of balance. And I'm a Libra, and so balance for me is really important. So then I spent the next 7 years doing this to a very, very high degree, and then the next 6 or 7 years slowly coming out of it, having read thousands of books.
So when you say the next 7 years doing this, what were you sort of doing at that point?
Just reading.
Okay.
Just reading. Being completely insular. I was on a mission, and I was reading. I just used to cycle around the city to the second-hand book stores because I wanted these oldest books, and everything that moves me is spirit. Go to these bookstores, get these books, right? What books? You'll know when you get there. Okay, I'm going along the shelves like this, and spirit guides me. This one, pull this one out here. Look at that. I don't know who it is. I open the front cover and start to read a little bit of the preface, and it turns out to be this philosopher or that psychologist, and okay, spirit says that one. And then this one, that one, that one, that one, as many as I can afford, 50 pence a time, on benefits. So I take the rucksack full of these books, and one after the other, after the other, after the other, I'll be reading them. And throughout my whole life since then, I've been guided with certain people I meet, but mostly videos I watch and books which are placed before me. The exact book what I need to continue on my journey. And so I've entered into a world which isn't of this world anymore. I'm on the world but not of the world. And this world doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It's all a fiction. It's all a contrivance of the ego. And the only thing going on here really is the spiritual experience. It's spirit having a human avatar experience. So why I need to tell you this is because my mind now, this is why I can't enter into the social realm. There's nothing there for me. The only places I go is to the supermarket and to the gym. The rest of the time I'm completely on my own, and I'm studying and I'm reading constantly all the time. And so I've asked myself for many, many years, it's been 16 years now, so what's the end game? What's the end game? What's the end game? But during this
16 years of this journey of reading,
and during this I've had so many other very, very powerful religious experiences, and to the average person they sound completely bat crazy, but spoken in the right fraternity they are perfectly legitimate. So, one occasion, Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, chastised me for 3.5 hours for all of my transgressions against love, because I denied love for so long. And he pointed out to me through this mystical experience all of these wonderful things, and every single bit of it is created out of love. And the sooner you get your head around that, then the better. And I was just sobbing profusely for the whole, 3.5 hours, and it was exceedingly powerful. 6 months after that, I was in a meditation, and
can I just pause you?
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot to take in.
There's a lot.
Quite a speed,
There's
so
a
I'm just going to try and just take a pause. When you came in quite early on in the session today, you sort of mentioned love, and I'm just picking up on kind of what you're just referring to then. And I'm sort of wondering, so through the experiences you kind of allow yourself to connect to and go into, and you have these sort of teachings, these learnings, these opportunities, I'm just wondering what came of those 3 hours, and because I suppose I'm also holding in mind you came in today saying, I don't grasp love or see love or believe in love. So do they have any reference? Do they kind of speak to each other, these two beliefs and experiences, or does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, the crux of it is that love died within me at a very young age. For the greatest part, and not totally, because I did fall in love with the mother of my daughter, and we was madly in love for the first 2 years, and our relationship went on for 11 years, and we have a beautiful daughter, and we still have the greatest respect for each other now, the mother. That's the only love I've ever had, but the nature of love slowly gets wrenched away from you, and when you watch something so powerful, so beautiful, slipping away, or just diminishing, and it's like holding a fistful of dried sand. It doesn't matter. The harder you try to hold it, the more these little grains of sand finds these little crevices in your fist to fall through. And so that again was a reiteration of the greatest of disappointment. And so I thought to myself, well, I probably hadn't better delve into that. I don't think I'm strong enough for it. People, they'll get married 5 or 6 times, and they all proclaim they're in love, and then they're just perfect in acceptance. Oh, one day the love's gone, and then they move on. I can't do that. Maybe my love was more powerful than theirs. Maybe I'm more of a self-realised person, closer to the connection of God consciousness, which is love. But to deal with love in this earthly environment is very, very dangerous. And so I've been very shy of that. But I've been very, very interested in discovering what it is.
Okay. And can I ask, and of course you don't have to answer anything that I ask, but today and last time I met you, when you were talking about your daughter, you said it with such warmth, like your beautiful daughter. I don't know what your relationship is like now.
Very powerful. Very powerful. And if I wanted to let's have a look. I've got to look for this word. If I wanted to relinquish my philosophy on love, then I would say, well, look, if I step outside of the ego rational mind, then of course, we love each other undyingly. But then you see, my rational mind, it asks, well, why do you do that? Well, of course, she's your daughter, she's your kin, she's your seed, she's your DNA. You brought her up, you nurtured her, you are her, you are the same thing. So you, of course, if you love yourself, then you'll love your offspring. And so that's the only realm I reserve, that temple, that sanctuary, with that relationship, because that is sacred to me. But if I look at love anywhere else, it's very difficult for me to believe in it. Because I just look around and I just see it fail time after time after time after time. And when I ask people what is love, they just speak nonsense. I've delved so deeply into this stuff. When you delve deeply into all things what it is to be a human being, you end up in the Nietzschean abyss. You end up in the nothingness. You end up in the Buddhist Maya. That's where the deepest of contemplation and insight always takes you.
So I wonder if what you were kind of saying about to love, there's almost a conflict to love your daughter, to use that kind of that understanding of love, that language of love.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you love your daughter would take you part, was it your ego part questioning?
Yeah, with her it's no problem. With her, that's the only sanctuary whereby I could say I believed in love.
Okay, and is that okay to be there?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine to be there on one level. But then, I'm like, well, if I want to investigate what I'm fantasizing about or what I'm proclaiming to feel, then I need to know what I'm feeling. What am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling the bond of this person who was just this tiniest of babies when it came into my life through the love of the only woman I've ever loved. So out of that love and bond, then this little thing came, which was, even greater, more powerful bond. And so my mind just runs away with a whole million of scenarios as to the investigation of love. And it deals with the chemicals in the brain, it deals with the ego, it involves fear, it involves the whole reason that the animals stick together with this bond, all those different sorts of things. They will all chip away at the notion and the concept of love, until in the end you've got to seriously ask the question, well, does love really exist? No more than anything else. But there's a feeling that pertains to it. So I'm happy with the feeling. But the word love, as a philosopher, I've got a lot to say about it.
So is there another word that fits better, that you prefer to use, that isn't love?
Well, if I asked you what love meant to you, as well as the rest of society, they'll go, well, for me, loving is feeling very strongly in a compassionate, loving, endearing, connected sort of way to a certain person. And I would say, okay, give me an instantiation. You could say my partner, my children, my dad, my grandmother, my dog, my cat. And I'm going, okay, so you have just collectivized all these things into that concept of love. Well, you're going to feel very different about the cat as opposed to your grandmother, as to your partner, and as to your children. So what I narrow it down into, I'm like, which one would you die for?
So I guess I'm just wondering, is there a way you phrase it that fits more for you, or do you just not use love, like with your daughter? What is it that feels most comfortable? Or do you just not go there because...
Well, we say we love each other.
Okay.
Because I can't, I don't want to diminish anything from that relationship with her. I'm not going to say, oh, love's just a fantasy, it's a figment of our imagination, it's about genetics, it's just semantics. Oh, goodness me, I'm not going to do that to defile that relationship. That relationship is sacred. And so I invariably don't even want to talk about my daughter because of the sacred nature of it. Whereas everything else pertaining to the world, it doesn't come under that that authority, you know.
Okay.
And I've had feelings for people, and you know, currently I have a pet squirrel who I reared from a baby, and she lives in the tree in my garden. I go out and we spend time together every day, and I feel very, very close and endearing to her. And so there's something that we feel, this bond, because she, to me, I've nurtured her, and you know, she comes to me and she gives me affection, and she kisses my nose, and you know, she burrows her claws into my beard, and you know, she likes to eat on my shoulder and tell the other squirrels that, you know, stay away from daddy, you know, this sort of thing. And so, you know, there's something there, but it's very difficult for me to feel in any areas which are potentially threatening. Of course, for the squirrel, it isn't threatened at all, it's sacred.
Harder to feel into areas that are more threatening.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. The world, of course, from when I was 4 years old, became very, very threatening.
Yeah.
When that love of a mother, which is supposed to be super powerful, undying, 4 babies, she could vacate this dimension with 4 babies, 4 times love. I'm like, what the hell is this love then? What the hell is it? Of course you got to question it, haven't you?
Of course. And I don't know whether it feels comfortable just pausing on that for a second, and I don't know whether this is comfortable to talk about just now or not, but I suppose your understanding of your mum's suicide now as an adult, can you say anything about that? Kind of, my sense is there might have been thoughts along the way, but just now sitting here, how do you make sense of, how do you understand mum's choice back then, or what happened?
Well, I mean, nobody ever wanted to speak about it. Grandparents, brother and wife of the father, nobody wanted to bring that up. Nobody wanted to give life back into what was dead. It was very important for everyone just to move on and build back. Because it was an exceedingly destructive time in my father's life, obviously with all the family and friends around, and then just something that he wasn't able to broach with young kids. You know, to get involved with that, and so it was always a mystery, and so we've all made of it whatever we could, but I look at the outcome of it. Well, it gave me great strength, and I wouldn't have done the things I've done in my life had it not been for that immense power that I took from her death. If I'd have been nurtured like the average person, I would probably be an average person in that respect. And so I, at this time in my life, I wouldn't have a problem with society and just entering into beliefs and all this sort of thing. But because of what happened, I question absolutely everything. And when you do that, everything falls to pieces.
So why do it? There's a part of you saying, I do it, but everything falls to pieces, so why do it?
Compulsion.
Okay.
And like you know, what I'm going to be conveying to you for this past 16 years, I've been absolutely compelled to keep seeking. And I read religious book after religious book after religious book. And even though I decry God and the existence of Jesus and any notion of, you know, God up in the sky and all these sort of things, and I've read so many different religious things, and I'm still compelled by spirit, by something, by the unconscious, just to keep reading one more book, and I don't know what that's about. But it keeps me completely insular and isolated, looking for it. And I can't see that ever abating.
So that might call it a part, like I said to you last time, I might refer sometimes to parts in that way. You might have this answer, we might have to go in a bit more sometime, but what do you think that part is looking for? If you were to check in with that compulsion part, that spiritual part, that analytical part, what is it that's driving? What do they want that might be known to you, might not be known to you? But if you check in, you might go inside, you might look inside, you might get a feel of that part. What are they trying to do for you?
These feelings?
The compulsion
The
part.
compulsions.
That part that keeps wanting to read the books.
I think ultimately the desire, unconsciously, of the human being is to get back into the womb. To get back into the tranquility and safety of that environment where there wasn't a care in the world, and there wasn't an ego. As soon as the ego is born, that's when the metaphor of the devil arrives. The devil arises out of the ego, whereas God derives out of the higher self, the still unadulterated state of consciousness, the essence of what we are. That's what the Buddhists find, and that's what the meditation's all about, and the deepest essence of all religions is the core essence of what we are, which is spirit. And so I'm connected with that spirit, and I know I am spirit, having a human experience, to give me these lessons. You can read a billion things about this, which spiritual people have stated is the reason for our existence for thousands of years. And so I don't have a problem with that. Getting back into the womb, getting back into this safety and this peace from this horrendous, compromising environment. And because I've learned so much about the world, and I've seen the horrors, and I see the evil of the human being, whoa, goodness me, isn't it any wonder that everybody is rushing back to the womb? And unconsciously they are, and that's why millions, billions of people are drug addicts, and they've got anxiety and stress and fears and all this, because they're massively too compromised by this society, which is all egoically driven, and it doesn't give any room for people to get in touch with the sanctity of their soul. So that's what I've sought out, that's what I've found, and the reason why I'm here is because I've been forced to come here by the government, who doesn't recognise that, because the government is the matrix, the government is a machine, and the government is highly intent and designed on the fiction of the human being and the ego being real, and they don't consider the validity of spirit at all. But I know that spirit exists, and I know that this whole thing is spirit.
You feel some anger just now, as you're saying.
To the government.
Yeah,
to the government.
That very sort of,
because
enlivened what you were saying.
Yeah.
Then. And also, though, just picking up on that, because I wonder if this is what we're still trying to tease out in these early sort of sessions, is, you know, that comment that you're forced to be here.
Yeah.
Because I wonder what that means to being in here in this process. If you're forced to be here, is that what every part of you believes?
No, no, and this is what these sessions are going to be so complex. Mm-hmm. There's so much to them, and everything is multifaceted, and I can go down fractals with every single thing I say.
So sometimes it'll be important for us to slow down on some of it.
Just stop it then. Just slow it.
And
don't feel that you have to be gentle with me. No. You absolutely don't.
Yeah, but just to what I suppose we might want to be thinking about is, can we have, and you've talked a little bit about higher self, so there might be some way of, in one of the models that I'm going to be thinking of using within the work is IFS, so internal family system.
Yeah.
And that refers to maybe sort of self-energy, so this idea of almost energy, sort of qualities of courage, compassion, looking inwards, that is around the parts. So this idea that we're often always in a part, but being aware of which part we're in. And so even if we're in a part, we might be looking to see, can we even notice which part you're in? Because your system will eventually be trying to hold that information and hold which part is up, which part disagrees. And so like you're saying, it might be very complicated, we might get lost and muddled at times, but how we start to notice what's going on will be a little bit of, can we also tap into that self-energy? And sometimes it might be really subtle when you're in a part, and sometimes it might be more obvious. Like then I noticed your energy, the tone, the sort of the direction of what you're saying changed, and made me wonder if you were in that part that's quite cross with the government.
Well, of course I'm in that part, and I've been in that part for many years, because the government have an agenda, and the agenda is to get all of the slaves back into slavery. And we can look upon this whole thing of what we're actually doing here in many realms, but if we go from the premise that we're all born equal, we're all born sovereign, and we're all born free, well, the government doesn't recognise any of those things. And so the government consistently, and even I was telling them and giving them doctor's notes and giving them letters from Vitamins, therapy sessions, I was telling them, I am not able to comply with what you want from me. And you are responsible for me feeling even worse, because every time you phone me up, you tell me you're making an appointment, I'm going to tell you again, I ain't coming. And the reason I ain't coming is because I can't stand it. And there's absolutely no purpose and point to me, because I've got unresolved issues that I've got to deal with, which you don't recognise. So through the lineage of things that we have to do through the government, in many years, difficult to say with money, let's say 6 years of being on benefit, the government never ever mentioned to me once that there is another fund, by the way, that you can have if you have certain conditions. They never ever said that. That is very nefarious, that's very wicked, and that's very deceptive. You have to find out another way, and I found out another way. So therefore, of course, I had resentment from the government for that. And because the government have never recognised what I've been speaking about, because I am living an existential crisis, so to speak, then they are constantly trying to press gang me. So they're trying to coerce me, they're trying to punish me, they're trying to manipulate me, they're trying to control my life, they're trying to take away my sovereignty, they're trying to take away my freedom, and they're trying to take away the very essence of my consciousness being an individuated shard of cosmic consciousness. So that's what the machine does. And so I have been forced here to consult with a professional who can write stuff down, and so I can tell them that, and I can give them that, because that's the only thing they're going to recognise. And when someone looks at that, and you know, whatever you're going to be saying at the end of this period, the chancellor isn't going to be in the DSM, and so they're going to go, who actually is going to be qualified in the government to recognise that I cannot be a slave anymore? I cannot enter into this fiction of a social realm. I don't believe in it.
Just to check out, what is it that, just if we've been very clear about what it is that you think you're having to do to come out with, to show somebody, what is it that you're referring to?
I have to jump through loops. Within this Department of Work and Pensions, if you have a disease or disorder that prevents you from functioning in what they would consider a normal society, which entails forced labour, then you have to prove to them that you've got a reason as to why they're not going to press gang you.
So what's the requirements of them for you right now?
Their requirements is that they have given me a stay of execution for about a 2-year period. Probably 1 year into it now. They will come back again like a bad dream, and they will be presenting me with forms asking me, so tell us about your condition. Tell us why you think you should be absolved from the imposition of slavery. Because that's how I see it. If you don't feel able to work and you don't want to work for whatever reason, then what's the only other option? It's forced labour, it's slavery. And there are actually anti-slavery laws. So what they are going to be wanting from me is professional write-ups as to my conditions, which could legitimise what I've been saying for all this time. And so things they understand, things they can comprehend, are things that are in the DSM. Now that can be post-traumatic stress and or the anxiety and social anxiety and depression and all these different sorts of things. Well, I'm a different sort of fish to what the average post-traumatic stress person presents. I feel if you've dealt with many people on that realm, then you may tell me differently, but you know, in relation to the flashbacks and the insecurity and the fear, I don't have the fear. I'm a mountain. I'm a true warrior at heart. It's just that I just don't have the heart. I don't have the resolve. I can't for the life of me see a purpose why I would ever want to do that again, unless something transitions within me. And that's the other reason why I'm here, to see if you can find and point out to me, you know, a reason why or how I could transition. I'm open to transitioning. And you know, maybe one day having a change of heart and thinking, shit, I'm actually going to go out and get a job and I'm going to be mixing with people because now my attitude has softened towards them. And you know, I will actually embrace the wholeness of this human experience instead of being this isolated philosopher variety. And if you look back through history, all these varieties of philosophers or deeply spiritual people, they're all hermits.
Okay, so I guess there's a sort of that part that's coming to therapy is almost feeling sort of obliged, compelled to do so by the government.
Well, because I'm a leader, I've always got two facets. One of them is it's self-protection. I have to do this. I have to jump through these loops. Otherwise, they will say to me, you've got no criteria. We don't recognise that. And so we're going to stop your money. So I have to protect myself against that because I'm not able to go out to sit in a van and do any of that mind-bogglingly bending stuff because I am absolutely OCD. I'm obsessive and compulsive every single day of my life that I have to learn up until midnight every single night. And the first thing that happens to me when I wake up in the morning, I've got downloads that I need to think about. And so I couldn't possibly function by doing any of that stuff. My life will completely change and I'll become something like an automated robot. I'm not a robot.
So it's all kind of linked, isn't it? Because the part sort of feeling compelled to read also, I suppose, would find it hard to work because it would take away time from reading.
Yeah.
And there's a sense that, can I find something for you? And I suppose that's a sort of an interesting one because, you know, if inside there's a lot of coordination around maintaining things as they are, then I will have very little influence because it's not about me trying to change you. But I suppose it's about, are there, and this is what we spoke about last time, quieter, softer, less dominant parts or voices that want something different for you, even if it's any leeway with how things are. Because I think I can't see when I can hear a lot at the moment around it being better to keep things as they are, you're quite happy with things as they are.
Look, when anybody's got any traumatic issues or things like that, they all cling on to the devil that they know. So I'm clinging to the devil that I know, and I'm asking myself the question, another factor to me, for God's sake, man, how long are you going to continue doing this? Because being a high flyer, being able to do all what I was being able to do, I know that I am capable of achieving, moderately great things. If I set my intention, the amount of energy that I've got, if I could bring it away from the trajectory, the endless, bottomless trajectory that I'm looking at, which only ever is going to take you into the abyss. With all the philosophers and spiritualists, the abyss, maybe you are absolutely at one with God. Well, what does that mean, being a human being? Where does that take you? Is it going to, get you any friends? Is it going to take you around the world? Is it going to make you create your own businesses? No, it's not. It's just going to make you absolutely insular in a cave like one of these gurus. So what I'm coming to you for, on the other hand of my scales, is can you find something within me which is going to enable me to find the kernel to override the power source that I've got going on at this moment in time? And I'm perfectly willing and open to do it, because look, while I'm getting paid from the DWP as what I know my true value could be to society and other human beings is nothing. And I'm absolutely wasted, doing what I'm doing, being what I'm being. And so if I could find a portal out of this, then my whole life would change.
Okay. And I think that's the bit inside that I can hear, what you just said now, a part that knows something else of what this is like.
Yeah.
Being, compelled to do these things, and that's important that you've noticed that, because that's already within you.
Yes.
But for very good and valid reasons, your more dominant voice and part is louder and comes up more easily.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, in so many ways already, the threat that's been beforehand, its job is to keep those threats away.
Yeah.
And by doing so, it does what it does.
Yes.
All this other stuff. And often we find, don't we, that there's kind of yo-yoing between extremes. So it sounds like you're also aware of times in your life you've done all sorts of jobs, worked very hard, maybe that's been very tiring, maybe that's been very in ego-led ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that part doesn't want to be like that. But there's also a part that maybe can see some slight challenges with being fully immersed in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Loses some of that social connection and potentially working, if you should want to, if the right thing came.
Yeah.
So there's these two extremes that both are fearful almost of yo-yo in between.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be something through this work where we get to keep holding in mind these parts, what they're trying to do for you, what they're willing to negotiate on. Almost, is there a middle ground?
Yes.
Is that almost what we're trying to work with?
Yes, and because of my nature, which I don't have any say in, because I am a Libra, I tick many of the criteria of being a Libra, always having two opinions. And I would even go too far to say that I have more than two opinions. I have a whole army of opinions. I have a whole army of spirits dwelling within my breast, so to speak, because there's many ways I can look at the world. And it's like, all roads are leading back to Rome, which is this core epicenter, which has to compute all this stuff. And I have to see which one has the most value and which one I should traverse upon. But at this moment in time, all I've been doing for 16 years is gathering all the resources.
Yeah, you're fully equipped. You're getting access to as much as you need to be able to offer as many different perspectives on things. And that part, I'm guessing, has got, will it be interesting? I suppose I'm sort of tempted to understand that part a little bit more right now, but I'm also just wanting to check in and pause on you wanted to come in today and share some thoughts. Do you think we've covered some of what you wanted to share?
Yes,
or
yes.
You've been able to
It was two facets. The origin of the trauma. The first one I consider served me because of the strength it gave me. But then the strength led me into a lot of trouble. I was taking too many risks. I nearly died 4 times. I got 4 near-death experiences, getting into a lot of potential danger whereby people would have reason to kill me, like being a white man living on the outer parameters of ghetto in Africa. Well, you're everybody's target. And everybody wants to come and steal from you and lie to you and beguile you and take you for everything. And so very, very protective, very, very protective. And so I've managed to soften a good deal of that. It was so protective that the ego actually couldn't stand it anymore and it imploded. And so from then I had to build myself up. Throughout that period, having so many lessons, and just in brief, one with Jesus. Mm-hmm. I came out of this meditation, which I have every day, and I'm listening to 432 hertz music, which takes you down into the theta realm, which is the deep meditative realm. And so I go into that every day, and it gives me the greatest of respite. When I came out of this several years ago, I just laid there very, very calm and blissful, and on my sofa, and I have a wall tapestry of a forestry depiction of an autumn day with the sun bursting through, which is golden everywhere. And as I lay there, I saw the image of what I instantly thought was Jesus's face. And I'm like, what the? I gets up off the couch and it goes over, and I'm checking it from all directions. I'm putting on different pairs of glasses, and it's still there. I come back to the couch and I'm like, what the? And then, watching that there, all of a sudden my body starts to tremble. And I get these massive vibrations of rushing waves and tingling and buzzing, the variety that you have when you leave the body. Now, I trained myself to leave the body, and it's a very, very curious thing when your consciousness leaves the body under these circumstances. So this is what was happening with these massive rushes and tingling, and literally a whole body shaking, 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 like this as I'm looking at this Jesus thing, tears streaming down my cheeks, and then a voice comes on, and the voice tells me, if you want to know what unconditional love is, you have to come through me. And then I just laid there shaking and crying for the next 10 minutes, absolutely shocked at what had happened. Later, I discovered that in one of the American philosophers, William James, his book on the varieties of religious experience, there's one story from one of the people he collated all this information from very, very respectable sources, clergymen and all these different sorts of people that wouldn't be making stuff up. And there was one religious experience which was almost identical to mine. And so in the religious fraternity, people will readily accept Jesus spoke to you. And he wants you, and he's telling you the issues that you've got. He tried to tell you with the angels. God tried to tell you, now Jesus himself. And I'm like, holy fuck. First, God tried to tell me, but God's way of telling me was a very, very powerful father figure. Exactly what you'd expect from the Old Testament. It was a manipulative and kind of bullying, coercive love, telling me that everything is about love, and it's his love, my love. But then when Jesus came to me, Jesus was basically, look, forget what the old man says. I'm telling you, if you want to know what real, true, unconditional love is, you have to come from me. Because in the New Testament, Jesus is all about unconditional love. There are absolutely no conditions. In the Old Testament, it's all about conditions, bowing down and begging and all the rest of it. So I had those experiences of those two Christian, Judaic gods. And then I had the angels. And then I've also had one with the devil on another occasion, which I'll tell you about another time. But I'm asking, why on earth am I having these things? I'm not religious. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But this sort of stuff keeps me compelled to read every single day, obsessively. And so that's where I am with that. And, you know, trying to work that stuff out, listening to thousands and thousands and thousands of YouTube videos and reading thousands of books incessantly. I'm never not reading a book. And so that is stealing away my life.
Okay.
And I want to know if it's some sort of an obsession that I can get over. Is there some way I can abate that? Is there some way... I feel as if I'm coming towards some sort of an end, because it isn't like anything as intense as it was before. You know, when we listen about the dark night of the soul, they go on for years. When we listen to Kundalini raisings, they go on for years, 7 years, 10 years. These are deeply profound spiritual experiences. And that's what's happened to me.
But you're saying it's feeling less intense at the moment than it
Yeah.
has done?
Yeah, I'm feeling more resolved.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, okay, I could use all this stuff that I know to go out into the world, to help other people see this stuff. But if I could lose my resentment for them, if I could lose the notion of the impending deceit and trickery.
To the population generally?
Yeah, to people in general. If I could embrace Jesus' attributes more with being open-hearted, loving and forgiving, if I could absolve myself from the complete disbelief of love, because on one hand I'm vehemently opposing the existence of love, but on the other hand I'm so desirous to get back into the realm of that. And to find that and to see how that would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that you're sighing now, you know that is the issue. You've felt that.
Yeah, there's I think it's one of those things, we'll get moments of aha, we kind of know what we're working with, and then other moments where it will feel like a whole other layer of information and complexity comes to us, and I think that will be my sense is that will be as it ebbs and flows as it comes to us. So you're noticing, aren't you, a lot of the, we might call it conflict, or just sort of the opposing kind of powers or elements inside. There's a lot there, and and I think one way to think about this is parts holding different stories, different information. And almost that light on the parts so that we can kind of see. Sometimes you might get a sense of how far apart they are, how big they feel, the shapes of each, the feel of each.
Yeah.
And when we talk about, and I mentioned that kind of self-energy, I wonder if there's moments that you can tap into that a little bit more. You know, so are there times where you feel just as a sort of a softening, a quieter sort of energy around, where you have that time to just look in?
Very often I fluctuate between the two.
Yeah.
I'm a constant fluctuator between the two. I am like the proverbial Jekyll and Hyde. You know, when we see these movies, you've got the devil on one shoulder, you've got an angel on the other. Mm-hmm. That's the affliction, in one respect, of a true Libran, but also it's exceedingly beneficial because you don't run down any paths of biases or fantasies, or because you're always stopping yourself at every single opportunity to ask yourself, where are we going from here and why?
I wonder if this is even possible just now, to sort of just take a moment to just notice what's around for you right now. So you might close your eyes, you might just gaze softly, you might just sort of bring your attention in and just get a sense of which parts, and we're not going to try and list them all, but which parts might be around today, and is there a sort of a name that you might have for some of those parts? Is the way you might identify them?
Well, all that I'm doing here is I'm engaging in personas.
Okay.
The core essence of me, which I experience the second I drop a persona, and I do it frequently all through every day, is the deepest and richness of peace and tranquility, which is the ambience of God consciousness.
So whether we call it personas or parts, with just some of that, I suppose I wonder if you can let me know then which personas do you feel like have been here today,
Right.
or just now even. What's around?
Okay, so there's the sentry,
Mm-hmm.
the protector.
Okay. So what would you like to call that part? The protector?
Yeah, call him the protector.
You smiled then. What were you?
Well, you know, I always envision some sort of Roman centurion, you know, standing sentry outside an important person's room.
So the centurion?
Yeah.
Yeah, feels...
Yeah,
feels
the centurion.
Okay, so you've got that protector around. So just notice again sort of that flowing energy to look inside. You've got kind of the feel of that centurion. So is there any other parts that have been around today?
The part that is desirous to let's say now that's interesting. Yeah, the envoy. The envoy.
So what can you say about that part?
The envoy wants to settle between the two.
Okay, to find a compromise,
Yeah.
find a way of, okay.
Yeah.
And between the two, the desirous part and the centurion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about having a spiritual awakening, you awaken to the fiction, the Maya. When we look as philosophers into what actually is going on in the world, we can break every single thing down into a concept, into language, into words. And if we do that, every single thing disappears, save for whatever feelings we have in our bodies. And what we do is we create concepts and words to pertain to the feelings.
And that part might struggle, mightn't it, in therapy? That part might want to dissect everything we say to get it to nothing, or to whatever.
Yeah. The
So
destroyer, look, Shiva, right? The builder and the destroyer within every one of us, you know, unconsciously for the better part. So there's something that has a resentment for the world, and it just goes, I don't care if it burns. That's the destroyer, because out of the destruction comes something new.
Okay. And there might have to be some compromise where we sort of acknowledge that therapy, at times using language and words to try and capture something, isn't going to fit perfectly with kind of
the
spiritual
feelings,
parts inside.
Yeah.
So, but it's almost that compromise, isn't it, of how are we going to find something to hook what we're talking about to get a shared understanding.
Yeah.
To continue the work.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we get into processing, we can follow sensations, imagery, feelings. We can process anything.
Yeah.
Because whatever gets stored at the time of trauma is a combination of all those elements.
Yeah.
So when we get into processing, we can continue down that path. But for now, as we're trying to generate a sort of a shared understanding, we might have to use words to kind of get a sense of what we're both referring to.
Yeah.
Because if we philosophise it too much, we might just keep going down
endless fractals
and lose what we're trying to stay with for this purpose.
Yeah.
But I hear how important that is to you and what you devote, to that time. But does that feel okay that we might have to just sort of grab something that feels meaningful? So, a little sense of what you had around just today, and we'll just sort of summarise this a little bit, and I'll give you the form as well in a minute, Aaron. But you had a sort of a protector part, you felt, of the centurion around. You had the part that you said was desirous for love.
So
to feel love too.
Yeah, the century is protecting the love, I suppose, and the mediator, the envoy, is travelling between the two.
Okay.
Because the love is freedom of all things. It's freedom of fear, it's freedom of compromise, it's freedom of biases, it's free of everything if we accept biblical or spiritual terminology of love.
So that's the... Yeah, okay. Because I'm just wondering how freeing it sometimes feels, fine-tuning everything down to a sort of, you know... And we'll get to know, I don't want to preempt what their role is for you, what they're doing for you, but I wonder if there is something of that freeing that the kind of, the envoy, the desirous part is looking for. Because it feels like there's a lot of energy consumed, isn't there, in trying to figure things out, analyse, dissect. So you've got the protector, part of kind of seeking sort of some more love, freedom, acceptance, the envoy that wants to try and work between them, the destroyer that I don't care about people, I don't care about...
relationships.
Okay.
There's a facet that I will always vouchsafe that I am indifferent of relationships, but when I have them, I'm very good at them.
Okay.
And so there's a great contradiction there. And I could speak ill of humanity in the broadest of sense. But then when I come down to the individual, I'm always the instigator of a conversation. Walking to the gym, I'm petting everyone's dogs, and all the dogs know me, and all the dogs love me. As soon as they see me, the tails are waggling and they're jumping up, and I'm engaging with the owners, and you know the vast majority of people will have a laugh when they're engaging with me. And so there is something very beguiling and beautiful and free in that. And yet when it comes to the conglomerate, the century closes everything down. And for instance, if I was to consider getting up each day and going into the city, which I have such a vehement opposition to, hence I never go. But if I did, and if I just considered that, well, let's just take one individual at a time. Don't consider all the machinations of all the suffering, all the pain, and all the potential trickery that's going to be going on in the realm of a conglomerate of human beings. Just deal with one human being at a time, and I'm pretty sure I'll have a very interesting and fun time. Being psychoanalytical and open to all these crazy people that I've met. I could write books about it forever. But what closes me down is the century. Got to get over the century.
So, what were you saying about if you could meet one person? What's your hope?
I don't have any hopes.
When you were just talking then about if you did go into the city
Yeah.
that you don't like, if you were to talk to one person, what is that? What were you sort of saying about that?
Well, on an individual basis, I don't have any problems with a human being.
Okay.
Because I don't treat the individual as the source of my resentment. And this is why when we speak about the government, you go, oh, the government, oh, that's made it animated. Yeah, because they're an energy. They're a foreboding energy source, and it isn't anything to do with human beings within that government, because they're all just doing their jobs and they're all just normal people, and they are following criteria. It's the energy behind, it's the entity, it's the egregore. You know, it's the power source. It's that energy which is the government. What governs your mental state, and that's what government wants to do. And I'm not allowing anything to have power over my mentalism and to tell me what I am supposed to do, because I go, well, says who? Says you, government. You fly by nights. One minute you're in, and the next minute you're out. Why do I have to live my life under your jurisdiction? Because you know the leader, Starmer, is a complete idiot, a complete and utter bought and sold puppet of the globalist agenda. And why do I want to listen to any of his policies? I'm not, in any shape or form. So therefore, of course, I've got my century when it comes to anything relating to the government. Always got to be very, very careful of the enemy.
Okay.
So these things, they're legitimate. You know, I'm not creating monsters out of thin air. They're all legitimate, and everyone, you can go online and you can see what the government is now trying to do: strip the vast majority of people's PIP money away, press gang them back into labour, and this, that and the other. So you've got forums, you know, they think they can do this to us, you know, I can hardly walk and I can't do this, you know, but the government is doing its job. That's what its job is.
What do you think has brought this up for you? What are you trying to? Why is that bit of information come up now? Do you think?
That information is important because it's an ideal illustration of energy en masse. So, okay, I can say the government, but then I will also say the city. And the city, you know, is loosely pertaining to the government, but it's the energy en masse of humans.
Is this some of the difficulty then? So there's sort of a sense that people per se are okay. You kind of can accept some people, have some good times with some people, but what they represent, what they carry, is also influences of this wider, the city, the government, the power, and that's what's sometimes hard to be around. Does that lead to this?
Yes, because if you have being subject to people's evil for a lifetime, which I have, meeting many people that proclaim they love you and then they do the most despicable things, friends that you've been with, you've known, you've been bonded with for 5 or 10 years, and then you lend them some money and then they make all the excuses under the sun not to pay you. All these things that they just kind of just make you retreat just a little bit more each time this happens. And I think it's age. You know, I'm 62 this year, and I've been around the world, so I've had a crash course on meeting human beings. And to be quite frank, there's been very, very few really that I could say that I've thoroughly enjoyed the company of. And the longer I engage with them, then the more time there is for them to show their true face, which is self-serving, greed, deception, and all the rest of these things. And so that's the difficulty for me, because I've become so resentful. I've tarred everybody with that brush, and I see the city as a blackness. I see the human race as a blackness. But on an individual basis, I'm a complete paradox, because I'm so open-hearted and willing and desirous to engage. So it's kind of like, you know.
Well, I'm just aware we'll have to sort of pull things together, but the traumas throughout your life have been by people often, and people are often operating, aren't they, within systems and, you know, the sources of energy that's around. So there feels that people and the government together, individually and collectively, you feel these wounds from.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of hatred, resentment, keep them away approach, but also this, we hear it every now and again, don't we, this real desire for this connection, this understanding of people, this more softening towards people, even this awareness that the government isn't, it's made up of people.
Yeah.
So that side is so much quieter. It feels like where we need to focus is really understanding the hurts within the centurion, what they carry. Because this is all, they've got to be this way, haven't they, having witnessed so many traumas you've been in because of people and how they've treated you.
See, I will give advice to my younger sister, who was traumatised by our stepmother. And our stepmother has died a few years ago. My younger sister has been suffering mentally all of her life as a result of how she was treated by the proverbial wicked stepmother. And even when the stepmother has died, the sister, she still not can let go of her hatred. And I said to you, do you not realise where this hatred resides? It is residing within you. And you are the only one that's ever going to emancipate you from that hatred. That woman, she was a bitch. I will never forgive her until the day I die. That bitch, this, that and the other. And I said, but look what's happening to you now. So, I know exactly what's going on. But they're powerful. These things are powerful.
Easier to spot in others, isn't it? What's going on, and that's a little bit like what we're saying. We might invite the self-energy in at times to notice.
Yeah.
When we think that's a part up front of talking, can that part sense your self-energy? Can your self-energy reach out to that part? So that's why we might be directing.
Yeah.
So that we're really building on these internal connections.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about external, aren't we, connections?
Yeah.
But keep working on these because it sounds very much like you're in parts that have lots of good ideas and values and opinions.
Yeah.
But we want to keep building on this integration because obviously, like we said, that early trauma fragments, doesn't it? Parts have to be so distant.
Yeah. What I'm looking for is all the tenets of Jesus, and yet I can't embrace them.
Yeah. There will be. It's scary, isn't it, to kind of open up to the softening.
Because you're opening up to the potential again. And so, what I will discuss with you in due course is, well, am I not man enough to open up to the pitfalls of the human being? You've been through it all. You've been around the world, mate. And so surely it's water off a duck's back. And then I go, if someone wants to, not pay me some money that I lent them, well, I should just just write it off, because if I'm expecting the money to come back, then you shouldn't really be giving it. So lend it, give it, or whatever, and write it off there and then. Don't be carrying the weight of it. Don't be thinking about it. Oh, is that money coming back? Oh, he's lying about this and he's lying about that. All these different sort of things. I think what we have to do is we just have to, we have to have the level of acceptance. We have to have the forgiveness. We have to have the open heart and the love. And we have to lose the fear and all these sort of things. And so I know all about all how it's supposed to be, but now it's really down to implementing these things.
Yeah.
And so what I said to you at the beginning of the first session, when you asked me what do I hope to, what desire from this, I said a professional opinion. Someone to tell me mostly probably what I already know, but just to give me that energy, which I can embrace and feel, particularly feminine energy. It's probably easier to accept for me. And so, it's to confront, my stubbornness on all of these issues.
Okay. Well, we'll pause it there, Aaron, and we'll pick up next time. Okay. There's always a lot, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think we've got a sense, of what's going on, and we'll keep building on that sense and checking in, and get permission with the parts to start doing some of that, putting it into practice then, some of that experiential how we work with some of this stuff. If parts can settle that we've heard enough of the current landscape, can they trust that we've heard enough of where the parts are at, and then start going in to work with some of these parts next time.
So in a nutshell then, this 2 2 weeks, I'm going to be ruminating on something. What seed would you plant within me that I would nurture and grow before I come back to the next session?
We're going to have to end now. I think that's quite important. I keep to time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily ask you to go away and think about anything just now. I think you do a lot of your own thinking.
Yeah.
We'll give you this form to do if you want to take this home. If you feel comfortable taking this home and filling it in, that's looking at the state of experience. You might want to map out some of your parts. You might want to draw out some of the parts that you notice that are around. But you don't have to.
Right.
If homework is something, thinking in between something important, let's bring that into the start of next session.
Yeah.
And think about that rather than rush something now just because it's on the spot.
Yeah.
So why don't we do that? Next time, Aaron, I don't know if I gave you the time already or not.
No.
But the 10th of April, 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to write that down, or will you remember that, or?
I would write it down, because I put it down on a piece of paper last time and then I mislaid the paper.
Yes.
And so I had to phone up for confirmation.
Yes. I did try to look at the system. It did look like there was a way to include it, but when I tried it didn't work, so I'll try again.
10th of April.
Thursday the 10th at 9:30. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Alright, Alan, good to see you.
Likewise. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, enjoy your second.